Hello friends, welcoming you all back to GIA's Potential Builder Current Affairs Sprints Program Session 5. So these are the 10 topics which we are going to discuss today. As usual, we are giving the Telegram channel link in the description given below where we are going to post few questions every day. So for exam related updates as well as quick revision, follow us on YouTube as well as our Telegram channel. This is the contact number of the institute where you can call for admission related queries. So without any further delay, let's go into the topic. The first topic which we are going to see is Mahila Kisan Sashaktikarana Pariyojana. The reason behind this, the Union Ministry of Agriculture has given the information about the above scheme because a question was raised to him. So coming to the scheme, this was launched in the year 2011. This is a subcomponent of Deen Dayal Yojana National Rural Livelihood Mission. This is also in line with National Policy for Farmers, which was given in the year 2007. So coming to this Deen Dayal Yojana, this is a scheme to eliminate rural poverty, which was also launched in the year 2011 to eliminate rural poverty. This is done through multiple livelihood missions as well as improved access to financial services. So Mahila Kisan Sashaktikarana Yojana, the aim of this program is to empower women who are working in agriculture. This is basically because in agriculture, when the agriculture census was taken, it was seen that there has been an increase in operational land holding of women to 14% from the prior 13%. So since there has been an increase, these schemes are much helpful in improving the livelihood of women in agriculture and to empower them. So agriculture census, coming to agriculture census, this agriculture census is taken every 5 years. So last agriculture census was given in the year 2015 to 16. Thus it becomes important now as it has been 5 years from the past census. And also the first agriculture census was given in the year 1970. So first one was given in the year 1970 to 71. And this scheme as well as the National Rural Livelihood Mission, both are given by Rural Development Ministry. This scheme is also implemented with other NGOs and state agencies as well as State Rural Livelihood Mission. So operational landholding. So the definition of operational landholding is nothing but it's a land unit which is wholly or partly involved in agriculture. Land unit which is wholly or partly involved in agriculture, and it has a single person who manages it or who operates it directly. If suppose few persons are helping them, then they won't claim any sort of title or something on that land. So that is called as operational landholding. A single person holding a wholly or partly agriculture land unit. So this is also all about operational land holding. And I have mentioned all the details about agriculture census, which is to be noted as there has been 5 years from the agriculture census. And one more thing about Deen Dayal Yojana is that it is a centrally sponsored scheme. That means partly it's contributed, that is around 60% is contributed by the center and 40% by the state. And it varies for special states and northeastern states, which are 80:20 ratio. Also, one more thing is also done on this day, that is the International Day for Rural Women, which is observed on 15th of October. This is also called as Mahila Kisan Divas. So Mahila means women. Mahila Kisan Divas is the scheme which is the day for rural women. International Day for Rural Women is on October 15th. All these are to improve the livelihood of women. This is and also the indirect aim of this scheme is also to bring in sustainable agricultural practices. So sustainable agriculture practices through schemes like zero budget based farming, which is a chemical free scheme. So we use no chemicals in this. Also, the indirect aim of this zero budget based natural farming is that we are going to completely reduce the production cost of farming, as well as few other schemes like non-pesticide management and community managed sustainable developed agriculture schemes. These are other schemes through which we are going to empower women and also bring in sustainable agriculture practices and sustainable livelihood. So basically, this is to improve the women in agriculture, as agriculture is the basic occupation of India. And why more women are into agriculture is that maybe the male members are moving or migrating out, and women prefer to work in agriculture and related farm areas like animal husbandry or this agro-based industries. So like that, since they are involved in that, these schemes are very much helpful to them. So next, let's the theme of this Mahila Kisan Divas is that Shashakt Mahila, Shashakt Bharat. That is, empowered women is empowered Bharat. So this is all about the scheme. So let's move on to the next issue. This is regarding quantum computing application lab. So MIT would have announced to establish a quantum computing applications lab along with Amazon Web Services. This Amazon Web Services is a subsidiary of Amazon. So Amazon Web Services na enna appdin paakumbodhu, it's a on-demand cloud computing platform, and also it provides application program interface to individuals, companies, and other government institution, which is basically a pay-based system. So as you pay, you get the service. So it's for on-demand cloud computing platforms. So this is the thing. And this quantum computing application lab is the first of its kind lab. This is the first time such kind of an initiative has been happened all over the world on AWS. That is this Amazon Web Services platform. This is basically to support government's plan to enhance innovation in quantum computing. So coming to quantum computing. So quantum computing works on the principle of quantum mechanics. So this basically works on the principle of how matter behaves at atomic levels. So atomic chinna particle on the level how atom behaves. So atomic levels, how matter behaves. This is got through this quantum mechanics. In conventional computers, it is based on the position of bits on as 0 or 1, that is binary positions. But in quantum computing, the atom can take the position of 0 and 1 simultaneously. So this is the advantage of quantum computing. And one more thing is that this is the first time the thing has been, and next is that India has announced in budget 2020 that it is going to provide around 8,000 crore over the period of next 5 years to build quantum research and innovation. So research and development in quantum computing through National Mission on Quantum Technology. So basically quantum computing has a wider area of work. It helps in medicine, it helps in research, space research, it helps in defense, and many other fields are involved in that. So this is the reason why quantum technology is being promoted. And this is a field in physics. It's a very important field in physics. So related to world level, China has a satellite developed on this quantum computing called QUEST. This is also called as Nicias. This is a quantum computing satellite of China. And Google has said that Sycamore, its quantum computer, has reached the quantum supremacy. But China is now claiming that it has developed a system which is even more superior than Google's Sycamore. One more additional information is that there is no quantum computers in India. This is one additional information. No computers, no quantum computers that has been developed in India. So this is all about quantum computing. So, and the main aim of this national mission on quantum technology is to make India third largest in quantum technology after USA and China. So basically it is to promote research and innovation and bring India as the third largest country in this field. So this is all about quantum computers and quantum computing technology lab. So next go to the next issue. So the next issue is about Kochi Kuttanad Mangalore gas pipeline project. So this is between Kochi in Kerala to Mangalore in Kuttanad. Sorry, Mangalore in Karnataka. This is basically for that. So our Prime Minister would have inaugurated this Kochi Kuttanad Mangalore gas pipeline and would have said that he is moving towards gas-based economy, which is comparatively cheaper, convenient, and environment friendly. So this is a program under One Nation, One Gas Grid policy. So this is a wider term. So it's basically One Nation and One Gas Grid is that we are going to completely connect whole India over this grid. A single grid is going to connect whole India so that there will be connection to all the places over India. So in this, what they are going to do it is a liquefied national gas project which will be providing around 21 lakh pipe natural gas connection. So this is going to take place all over India. So this is a 3,000 crore project. This Kochi Kuttanad Mangalore gas pipeline project is a 3,000 crore project which is going to pass through Ernakulam, Thrissur, Palakkad, and Kannur, Kasaragod districts. So many districts are involved in that. So it's going to provide environment friendly and affordable fuel in the form of piped natural gas. It is going to be provided for households, industries, and government related institutions and many other things. So another thing about another major gas pipeline project is Jagdishpur, Haldia or Bokaro, the Damra pipeline project. So it is JH basically in the eastern states of West Bengal and those areas. So JHBDPL. So this is one more project, gas pipeline project. Because of this project, 3 fertilizer plants have been revived due to this gas pipeline project. Another is in the northeastern region. In this region, it's a joint venture by many oil companies like GAIL, IOCL, Indian Oil, and those things. So it's also known as Indradhanush Gas Grid Limited. So this is basically to connect complete India through gas pipelines and to bring environmental friendly and cheaper fuel into India. So it's known as Indradhanush gas grid. So another one is also there between Ennur, Tiruvallur, Bangalore, Nagapattinam and these areas. So this is going to be this is a new connection which has to be formulated. In this One Nation, One National Grids, it's a power transmission product all over India. So in the mainland of India. So regarding these, there is also a scheme for providing natural gas connections, which you can know since it's these are basically environmental friendly things. So a scheme which we can know is PM Ujjwala Yojana. Though this is a different scheme, not related to natural gas, but yet we need to know about this. So PM Ujjwala Yojana is for piped LPG connections to below poverty line women, so as to bring them out of this practice of using wooden and other things for cooking as a fuel. So wood or coal as a fuel. This really affects their health. So it's a piped LPG connection scheme which is going to be given free of cost. In this scheme, only the LPG connections are given in free of cost and not cylinders. Cylinders are given at a subsidized rate. Only connections are given at free of cost. Another scheme is also there in the name of Ujjwala, that is only Ujjwala. This scheme is done by Ministry of Women and Child Development which is to stop women trafficking. This scheme is to stop women trafficking. This is by Women and Child Development Ministry. So the scheme PM Ujjwala is the only welfare scheme by Petroleum Ministry. So this is all about Kuttanad, Kochi-Kuttanad Mangalore gas pipeline project, and it is between Kerala and Karnataka. So let's move on to the next issue, and it's a 3,000 crore project. So and it's a 450-kilometer long project. So the area it is covering is around 450 kilometers. So next, go to the next issue. So the next issue is about Himalayan trillium. The reason behind it being in news is it has been declared endangered by IUCN. So it's a declared endangered. This is because it has a lot of medical properties. It is helpful in curing dysentery, as well as it also acts as an anti-cancer and anti-aging material. So for this high medicinal value, it has been highly trafficked by the poachers, and this is the reason why it has been declared endangered. So it's a herb. It's a herb species which is basically found in Himalayas in the temperate. Basically, this found is all over the world. It is found in temperate and subalpine regions. In Himalayas, it is found in Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, and these areas it is found as alpine. These are alpine regions. So this is the reason why they are found in these areas. And the scientific name of this tree is, sorry for that. So the scientific name of this herb is Trillium guaranianum, and it's basically a high medicinal value herb for dysentery, skin boils, and those things. So these are the things which you need to know about the herb Himalayan trillium, and found in Himachal Pradesh, Kashmir, and Sikkim. So this is all about the herb. So going on to the next news. The next news is about 17th ASEAN India Summit. Actually, for this summit, Vietnam would have been the current chair, but along with Vietnam, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi would have co-chaired the 17th ASEAN India Summit. So coming to ASEAN, it was declared, it was established in the year 1967 through Bangkok Declaration, and ASEAN happens to be India's fourth largest trading partner. So more about ASEAN. So the founding members of ASEAN are Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. These are the 5 countries which happens to be the founding members of ASEAN. Then 5 more countries joined. The countries map has been given here. 5 more countries like Brunei, Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, and Cambodia joined. So in 2020, ASEAN Vision 2020 would have been adopted by the ASEAN leaders as it forms the 30th anniversary of ASEAN. So ASEAN becomes important here. So we need to read somewhat about it. And the membership of, the chairmanship of ASEAN rotates annually. So according to the alphabetical orders in the English name of in English, so the country's chairmanship rotates every year. So many things were discussed in this 17th ASEAN Summit for COVID, in which India would have contributed around $1 million to COVID-19 ASEAN Response Fund. So to fight against the COVID pandemic, India would have contributed this much, and other things under economic turmoil due to this COVID would have been discussed, and other things related to security and growth of the region would also been discussed, as well as India's East Asia policy would have been discussed. And one more thing which has been a problem with regard to ASEAN is that India would have partnered with ASEAN through RCEP. So RCEP is basically ASEAN plus 6. Initially, it was ASEAN plus 6 was RCEP, in which India was also a member. But due to a problem which arose due to a proposal of an agriculture thing, which created a problem for India. From Indian perspective, that was not a good initiative. So India opposed it, and finally it withdrew of RCEP. And now only 5 members are there in RCEP, and India is not present in RCEP as of now. So India would have pulled out of RCEP in the year 2019 due to the trade agreement, which would have affected basically the agriculture community in India. So that was the opposition by India. The other 5 countries are China, Japan, Australia, South Korea, and New Zealand. And there is also another initiative in which India coordinates with RCEP, that is the East Asia Summit, which is ASEAN plus 10 countries basically. ASEAN plus 10 countries. ASEAN plus 8 countries basically, in which India is a member. This East Asia Summit was launched in the year 2005, and India happens to be the founding member of this East Asia Summit. So the first meeting of this East Asia Summit happened in Kuala Lumpur, that is Malaysia. In Malaysia it happened. So basically, this East Asia Summit is also for discussing how to enhance the South and Southeast regions. It is also basically for Act East policy of India and the countries are, the 8 countries are, one is India, China, Japan, New Zealand, Australia, Republic of Korea or the South Korea, Russia, and US. The other 2 countries, along with the RCEP, India, Russia, and US are now in East Asia Summit and US. So since these are the partnership through which India would have engaged with ASEAN. So another one dialogue which, or a security thing which would have formed out of ASEAN is the Quad grouping, or this due to these summits is the Quad grouping. It is a security dialogue consisting of 4 countries, basically India, US, Australia, and Japan. So the reason behind why it's important is that along with the East Asia Summit of 2020, this Quad's first meeting would have been held. So this is an importance why we should know more about Quad, and the Quad countries would have participated in Malabar exercise of 2020, which happens to be an annual trilateral exercise between 3 countries, alternatively in Indian Ocean as well as Pacific Ocean. So the 4 countries participated in that. So it is between USA, Japan, and India officially. But after Quad, this Quad has been formed. This Quad is the idea of Japan in the year 2012. But basically it was formulated very recently, and the Quad dialogue, official meeting of Quad would have been held in the year 2020 along with East Asia Summit. So this is few information about it, and East Asia Summit is an informal meeting. So next, go on to the next issue. So the next issue is regarding Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. The reason behind this Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana is that PMKVY 3.0. So this would have been proposed by the government, and it would have been accepted by the government. This is basically for providing skill development at the period of COVID, to overcome COVID and to employ youth. So this scheme has been proposed as of now. So earlier, the first phase of the program was launched in the year 2015 on World Youth Day, and it aims to train around 40 crore people in different skills by 2022. So this is implemented by National Skill Development Corporation. This is basically for developing industry related relevant skill training, like vocational training in the fields of tailoring, or it may be in the field of carpentry and those things. So this is a skill training measure. It is the flagship program of Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Also in this program, we are going to produce with RPL certificates, and this RPL certificate is known as Recognition of Pre-Learning Certificate. This is basically to say that the person has been skilled in the specific area. So this is a part of Skill India mission. Basically, in the first mission, it was completely short duration skill trainings and monetary rewards to the people, to the youth. For skill certification is basically for youth. It is to train 40 crore people. The whole scheme by the 2020 is basically for youth. So in PM KVY 1, it's to just encourage skill development through short duration courses, and we are going to give certificate for that. In the second mission, which was launched in 2016, it is going to basically expand to a larger geographical area as well as in larger sectors, like more than one sector is going to be covered, and it is going to be aligned with other missions like Digital India Mission, Swachh Bharat Mission, Make in India Mission, and those areas. So the budget for phase 2 was 12,000 crore. And this third mission, the third PM, the one which was sanctioned right now, this is basically on the steps of Atmanirbhar. Small Atmanirbhar Bharat. So it will be a more decentralized approach or a bottom-up approach. So the districts level will be the district panchayat and the local governments will be more empowered, and these areas will be concentrating on providing skills to the youth. So this is the all over holistic approach of the scheme. And in this scheme, it also is going to provide skills to youth on Industry 4.0, that is AI, automation. These areas they are going to provide skills. So it is basically a holistic, a very broader scheme. And in national education policy, the attribute of these schemes have been emphasis like providing of vocational training from 6 years of class. These things are provided in national education mission. So basically, it's a very holistic scheme for providing and encouraging youth into different fields of training and skills. So let's move on to the next issue. So this is all about the scheme which is given. So 729 Kendras are there and 200 ITIs are under skill development role, and the project sanctioned is amount is 948.90 crore. It's going to be rolled out in 600 districts. So this will be focusing on COVID related skills more. So let's move on to the next issue. So the next issue is about Indian Meteorological Department, which celebrated its 146th foundational day on 15th of January. So basically, Indian Meteorological Department was established in the established in the year 1975, and it is the agency under Ministry of Earth Sciences. Ministry of Earth Sciences. So it's basically for meteorological observation, weather forecasting, and seismology. During this program, this is the function during this program. There are a few initiatives has been given. One is the Doppler weather radars, which were introduced with Doppler weather radars. So what it basically does is it's for providing improved weather information. So basically it's for providing improved weather information to weather forecasters, so that the safety regarding cyclones and other things also will be provided by Indian Meteorological Organization. So even we can know much priorly about the disasters which is going to happen, and we can take the necessary mitigation measures and provide safety to people. So this is one of the thing which is going to do. And second thing what has been introduced, launched is multi-mission meteorological data receiving and processing system. This is the other thing which has been introduced. This has been introduced in collaboration, or this has been established in collaboration with ISRO. So IMD and this ISRO collaborated and established this mission. This is for basically monitoring and forecasting of severe weather events through many devices, and it will provide information to tourism industry, agro. Basically, it involves all the sectors which is going to provide information, and it's going to be based on satellite based images. So this is one thing. And other thing is, officially during this function, it he launched an online web portal of IMD. Officially, this online web portal of IMD launched a journal called Journal Mausam. When we say, do not confuse this with Project Mausam. Project Mausam is basically by Culture Ministry. So this actually what is does in Project Mausam is that the Culture Ministry's project in which it is to know how knowledge and manipulation of monsoonal winds has shaped interactions across Indian Ocean. So this is by Ministry, Culture Ministry, Ministry of Culture. So how the monsoon winds has shaped the relationship among the Indian Ocean countries. So it works at a larger scale of collaborating with culturally, this Indian Ocean region, how they are collaborating culturally, and what are the traditions that are common among these regions. Those things are recorded, and it helps to build a relationship across countries of Indian Ocean. Basically, in India can involve with other Indian Ocean regions culturally. So it's enhancing of soft power. So tourism, culture, tradition, everything will be shared through this project MOUSA. So this journal of MOUSA is by IMD. So the portal journal of the MOUSA was released. So it's done by collaboration with CSIR NISCA. This is the report on tropical cyclones disturbances during the year 2020 was basically released through this. So this is all about journal MOUSA, and also IMD is the one which gives the definitions of heat waves and warnings on heat waves related to India. So let's move on to the next issue. The next issue is about Gramodaya Vikas Yojana. The reason behind it in being used is the Ministry of MSME Ministry. So small and medium enterprises would have approved the program to benefit artisans who are working in manufacturing of agarbatti. So this is basically to improve the agarbatti, domestic agarbatti industry, as well as to reduce the imports of agarbatti. So this it's a collaboration of KVIC, that is Khadi and Village Industries Corporation, and along with other institutions. So KVIC will be providing training, raw materials, along with this agarbatti manufacturing machines. So it's basically a collaboration of many MSME with KVIC and other things. So this Gramodaya Vikas Yojana is one of the two components of Khadi Gramodaya Vikas Yojana. So coming to KVIC happens to be a statutory body which was formed in the year 1957. It's an apex organization under the MSME ministry. So KVIC basically works in planning, promoting, facilitating, organizing, and to assess this micro, small, and medium enterprises as well as small village industries. So it plays a prominent role in developing of these village industries. So this is all about Gramodaya Vikas Yojana. So this is a village industry grant kind of scheme. What is Khadi Gramodaya Vikas Yojana does is that it aims to promote and develop village industry by technological support and infrastructure, technological support, infrastructure support, modernizing of infrastructure are provided to these village industries. This is the main aim of this Khadi Gramodaya Vikas Yojana. So in this overall scheme, actually what happens is around 200 agarbatti making machines as well as 40 machines, 40 mixing machines will be provided to these artisans so as to improve their livelihood to boost this agarbatti industry. So this is what happens in the scheme. So let's move on to the next issue. So the next issue is about CAT-Q virus. Actually, the scientists from ICMR, that is Indian Council of Medical Research, they would have warned India that India is prone to, or it has the potential to get affected by this CAT-Q virus and disease with the, it's India has a, sorry. So India has the possibility of getting this cat diseases due to this CAT-Q virus. So this is a arthropod-borne virus, that is related to insects. These diseases are caused due to insects. That is arthropod-borne virus or called as arbovirus. Basically, this virus affects both humans as well as economically important livestock. Its natural host is mosquito, basically Culex mosquito. In China, this virus has been found recently in China. This virus has been found in Culex mosquito and pigs in Vietnam. That is the reason why ICMR has given a warning to India that India may get affected or has the potential to get affected by this disease. So, and primary mammalian host is pig. So now coming little bit deep into Culex mosquito, as many diseases are related to this Culex mosquito, and largely now due to the pandemic season, there can be questions related to diseases based on mosquitoes or other things. So Culex mosquitoes are generally causing diseases like Japanese encephalitis, which is a deadly brain disease or causes brain fever. This Japanese encephalitis is a brain related to brain disorders. So it's a viral disease. So next is lymphatic filariasis, or it is also called as elephantiasis. So this is also caused by Culex, like the lymphatic membranes in the legs and all, it will be bigger. The legs will become swollen due to this lymphatic filariasis. So this is another thing, another disease caused by Culex mosquitoes, and another one is West Nile viral disease. So these are the diseases caused by Culex mosquitoes. Another one type of mosquito is Aedes aegypti. And India has a huge population of this Culex mosquitoes. That is the reason why it has been said that India may get affected due to this Culex mosquitoes. Sorry, this CAT-Q virus. So another one is Aedes aegypti. This is a mosquito which is causing dengue, chikungunya, and Zika virus. And Zika virus. The difference between Aedes aegypti and Culex mosquitoes is that Aedes aegypti basically thrives on clean water, whereas this Culex mosquitoes, they are basically found in dirty waters. So this is the difference between Culex and Aedes aegypti, or unclean watery environment. This is the place where this Culex mosquitoes are. So this CAT-Q virus has the potential to cause diseases in both humans as well as livestock. So since already there is a pandemic which is creating a chaos in India or all over the world, India being affected by other such virus can cause a large damage to economy as well as people's life. That is the reason why ICMR is cautioning India regarding this virus. So let's move on to the last topic, that is Swasthya portal and a platform related to it called Alec platform. The reason why it's in news is that the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, basically this is a portal for tribes. So the Ministry of Tribal Affairs would have announced a series of initiatives for tribal health and nutrition through this Swasthya portal. This is basically for platform for tribal health and nutrition in India. This portal, in this portal, there are information regarding or support corners for sickle cell anemia, as well as a few other basic database regarding the tribes, database regarding a tribe. That is that it has a dashboard, it has a knowledge repository where we can get different schemes or related things for the tribes. These things are available. It is actually managed by a Center of Excellence for knowledge management in health and nutrition, established by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, and this is done in collaboration with Piramal Swasthya Management and Research Institute. So Center of Excellence in Nutrition and Health by Ministry of Tribal Welfare, as plus this institute collaborates to maintain this portal. So this Center of Excellence works towards collecting the data of tribal health and how nutritious they are, as well as they are helpful in providing evidence-based policy making so as to improve the tribal health and nutrition. So this is all about this portal. Coming to sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia is a genetic disorder. It affects the hemoglobin, that is the red blood cell. Basically, it's a genetic condition that is present at the time of birth. So next comes this sickle cell anemia can be cured by bone marrow or stem cell replacement. So coming to the Aleka, this is a newsletter. That is given by the Center of Excellence. It is basically a quarterly newsletter that is given in this box. Please go through it. It's given by the Center of Excellence for Knowledge Management on Health and Nutrition that has been created by the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. So basically, it gives the tribal health and the other policy making decision based on evidence. Whatever is done by the Swasthya portal is given as a newsletter in this Aleka. It's a quarterly newspaper. So this is all for today. So for any further suggestions which we can incorporate, please inform us in the comment section. So with this, we are ending this session today. So we will see you tomorrow with the next session. Thank you.